Hello, everybody. This is EJ Schultz, news editor at AdAge, and welcome to AdAge's Super Bowl Playbook. The big game is only about 5 days away, and plenty of brands have, of course, already released their ads, or at least teased them. But for advertisers, some of the work has only just begun, as brands seek to surround their big, expensive buys with effective social media strategies and more. Today, we're going to dig into some of these tactics with some of the people behind the in-game ads. We're going to touch on all the hot topics, of course, from AI to Gen Z and everything in between. And as always, I want to invite our viewers to submit your questions on our social feeds, and we'll get to as many as we can. But before we begin, I do want to thank our sponsors. Our co-presenting sponsor is Danone North America. And our supporting sponsor is TikTok for Business. So let's get started. Kicking us off, we're going to hear from some first-time Super Bowl advertisers to learn how they are approaching their big game debuts. So I'd like to bring on screen now Daniel Jung, who is the president of beverage and coffee business for Nestle USA, Jasmine Taylor, who is the head of consumer marketing for Instacart, and Ramon Bellantini, who is the president of North America and LATAM at Duracell. Welcome, everyone. And first of all, congratulations. You effectively sold a Super Bowl ad to your bosses, so that deserves some applause. We're going to get started talking about some of what you have planned. And I want to start with you, Danielle. Nestle has been in the Super Bowl before as a company.
Yes.
But this is the first time the company has run an ad for Coffee Mate, which is
Yes.
over your right-hand shoulder there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take us behind this decision? Why now? Why for this product?
Yeah, I mean, it was the right time because last summer we took Coffee Mate into a new direction, a new campaign called the For the Love of Coffee, Ultimate Coffee Lovers campaign and brand platform. It's really trying to celebrate modern coffee culture with young consumers who are really experimenting and customizing their coffee more than ever through social media and what we call the fourth wave of coffee. As we evolved the campaign, we also just launched a few weeks ago this new amazing product, Coffee Mate Cold Foam, which you see behind me, which is the ultimate expression of modern coffee culture and this desire for customization and experimentation. So we said, hey, we're going to marry this new campaign just launching with this amazing new product. It needs the grand stage of the Super Bowl to tell that story. And that's why we're here for the first time in our 60-year history.
And you did just took the stage technically because your ad is already out. So let's show everyone your spot and then we can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Let's go, tongues. I'm a dancing tongue and I like to taste it cold. Have you ever seen a tongue do this? Yeah, Coffee Mate cold foam. Give me cold foam, give me cold. Everybody now. Give me cold foam, give me cold foam.
So people might recognize Shania Twain. I'm going to ask her about her in a second, but let's start with the real star of that ad, which is that gentleman's tongue. You told us for our story on AdAge that you scoured the internet to find the world's most talented tongue dancer, watching over 9 hours of auditions with their very real tongues. Can you talk about how that went?
Yeah, I mean, so I'd always heard before the spot about hand artists out there. Did not realize there were tongue artists or tongue dancers as part of this, but pretty amazing to basically see the plethora of tongue artists that we can basically showcase what happens when your tongue first tastes coffee made cold foam. And so it was a pretty surreal experience, just seeing dancing tongues all over the place. And can you make a heart shape? Can you dance and make it seem like you're a pop diva in the halftime show? And so that was a really fun experience that got to be once in a lifetime. Right.
And so there was no AI involved in that ad. That was a real tongue. Is that right?
No, that's a real tongue. And we even had tongue puppets, 2 tongue puppets on stage as well. So you have live tongue artists with tongue puppets. And that is not CGI. That's a live tongue dancing its way because it loves coffee made cold foam.
And, I know you guys had done a teaser that actually had Shania Twain in the teaser, and that is a custom song that she created for you called Gimme Cold Foam. Is that right? Can you talk about what it was like working with her and the decision behind using her as part of your campaign?
Yeah, so if you think about the way the spot came together was when we mined social media of how consumers feel when they drink cold foam, it is like a part in your mouth. That is the consumer insight, the product insight. And we were marrying that kind of consumer insight with the fact that we're going to be on the Super Bowl. And what's iconic about the game, beyond the game, is this awesome halftime show with iconic pop artists. And so we want to get the OG pop diva to represent kind of the expression of the tongue, wanting to sing when it hits coffee made cold for the first time. And who better to personify the OG pop diva than Shania Twain? And therefore, working with her was amazing to write that jingle, to sing the jingle, and to be the voice behind that dancing tongue. And really, it's representing like almost our own version of the halftime show of the Super Bowl.
Was there any consideration of putting her in the spot in the game, or can you talk about that decision?
Yeah, we actually really wanted the diva to be the tongue. So that's really our foam diva with the tongue. So that should have been really the star of the show. And for her to be the voice behind it kind of was a nice marriage of how does your tongue feel when it tastes coffee for the first time, along with kind of her music really showcasing this kind of iconic halftime show culture moment that is a part of the game.
So we'll come back to you in a little while to talk kind of more about your teaser strategy and all that stuff. But I want to bring Jasmine in. Yeah. Instacart, we've seen some of your competition run Super Bowl ads in the past years. DoorDash, Uber Eats, they've been sort of duking it out during the game for a while. Why did Instacart feel that this was the right year to jump in and join that?
Yeah. So for us at Instacart, we just really felt like the timing was exactly right for a couple reasons. One, Instacart is the clear grocery technology leader, right? Of course, our competitors promise to bring you your groceries, but we have a decade of grocery expertise under our belts. Our partnerships with retail banners span 1,500 retail banners, 85,000 stores. So we know that our company has a compelling value proposition. And then secondly, our brand has never been stronger. We've taken the strategic approach over the last few years of really just focusing on building our brand, building brand equity, driving business impact, and really getting ready for the big stage. And so through that, we've driven significant increases in our awareness and our consideration. And so now we know this is the time, right, to like really enter into the Super Bowl chat and drive that distinction. So we're ready.
And I know you just got back from the Today Show where you premiered your ad, but let's take a watch and then we can talk about the ad itself.
Release the hounds.
Puppy monkey baby.
Oh yeah. I'm on a porch.
Groceries are here.
Thanks, babe. You get the milk?
So those are a lot of iconic mascots. We can talk about some of them in a minute, but I think when we talked to you about this approach, you told us that you didn't have 20 million to spend on celebrities, so we knew we would not out celeb celebrity ads, and had to find another direction that would win on its own. So how did you? I'm sure you went through lots of ideas. How did you land exactly on this idea?
Yeah. So yes, as I mentioned, we didn't have a large budget, a significant budget, so we knew we couldn't necessarily go that route. But we also know that celebrity inclusion in Super Bowl ads is a best practice. Consumers are showing up expecting to be entertained, and that really is a best practice in a playbook. And even personally, I'm excited to hear Shania Twain again. I'm a huge fan, so I know we all know that that's a very strong playbook to take forward. But knowing where we were, we wanted to think about a few things. One, to compete in a crowded landscape and for Super Bowl, we needed to figure out what's that cultural connection. And so we're celebrating the cultural connection that many people feel to these iconic grocery brand mascots, who are actually celebrities in their own right, right? And we wanted to do so while showcasing what makes Instacart special. And our breadth of selection is really at the core of that. We can bring all of your favorite brands together and right to your door. And the creative intends to showcase that promise, right? So beyond just the delivery, you see an iconic delivery. And what we're trying to convey is really that we will go to great lengths to take care of your groceries so that you can take care of life. So we really wanted to kind of tell that story in a differentiated way and treat our mascots like celebrities.
And yeah, as you mentioned, they are sort of celebrities themselves. They're probably pretty valuable IP, and I'm sure these brands just don't give them away for free for these kind of uses. Can you talk a little bit, take us behind the scenes and what it was like securing that permission to use these mascots and what your partners might be getting out of this?
Sure. And sorry, I had to move my camera a little bit. The sun just came out in LA, so the glare caught me. So the question around securing the IP. So can I get into details on exactly where we landed on those agreements? But absolutely, the brands are iconic. They are definitely protected as they should be. And so we did enter into individual agreements with each of the brands in order to include them in our Super Bowl ad.
I think they're getting some co-promotion. Obviously, you're a retailer and you sell these brands, a lot of them, right? And so they're getting some of their own awareness out of this as well. Are you doing stuff on the side, on social media and other things that would also leverage these other brands?
Yeah, I mean, what's really fun about the ad is exactly what you're pointing to, is that, Instacart delivers all of these brands via our platform. And one really fun fact is that I'll share is since our inception, just looking at the brands that are in our ad, we've delivered around 340 million of those items to consumers. And so it really sort of personifies what our value proposition is. And yes, we decided to take the approach of releasing the ad, releasing the teaser, because we know that Instacart's value prop is really in the lead up to the big night, right? Stock up for the big game. And so, yes, we're partnering with the brands across social, across multiple paid media outlets to really tease our spots, but also drive that big game stock up as well.
I know this has been a thing for a while. You get kind of these brands talking to brands on social media, yes. And a lot of that is
ranter
during the game.
Yes,
you have stuff lined up along those lines.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you visit our handles even now, you'll see that we are all having some conversations across brands, across platforms. There's a lot of fun chat. There's even brands entering the chat that aren't in our spot. So check it out. It's a lot of fun. And yes, early signal is that consumers are really enjoying it. And it's quite entertaining to see.
I'm curious, where are you finding the most success in social media? Which particular channel? Are you using all of them? Instagram?
We're using them all. We're using them all. And we're seeing different engagement depending on the platform. Of course, because a core to our strategy is to really treat the mascots like celebrities. Platforms like Reels and TikTok are really core because consumers want to see the mascots. But there's some really fun banter happening on Threads and on X as well. So we're using them all.
We'll come back to you in a little bit. I want to get Ramon involved here. Duracell has been making a lot of moves to break into pop culture recently. I think you have a partnership with a Vanderpump star, Ariana Madix, was an endorser recently. But of course, the Super Bowl might be the biggest pop culture stage there is. And you guys are a historic, iconic brand, but this is the first time you've actually ever had a Duracell ad in the game. Is that right?
First time ever.
So why now?
Well, I would say, again, going back to the success we've had, there's three things I always look at. The first one is, do we have an unexpected execution that we believe in? The second one is a brand at the core of the execution? And then the third piece is there an authentic tie-in to culture? So that has been our winning formula to do, again, Ariana, F1, Inter Miami, many others in the past. So as you think about the Super Bowl, there's no bigger stage than taking a swing. And we think we have something that's unexpected, where the brand's at the core, and that I think has a great authentic cultural tie-in. So that's why today, or this time, is the time we decided to go after it.
And you are not releasing your ad early, is that right?
We are not.
Can you explain why? Now we've seen, I think, more than half by far these days are releasing their ads. We start seeing ads 2 weeks out sometimes.
Yeah. Well, our new campaign, the tagline is built different. So I guess we're a little bit built different, EJ. No, but it all comes down to really impact. And I think for different brands, like for Jasmine, like she mentioned, like the biggest impact is pre-game. For us, as we evaluated our creative, and hopefully everyone is going to see it live on Sunday and understand why we decided to stop to wait for it. We think that the element of surprise is going to make our ad and our campaign more impactful. So that's why we held back, and we haven't shared even a teaser.
Do you find, obviously you want to make the most out of this investment. Do you think, is your plan to keep the conversation going in the days after the game? And do you have something in place to do that?
We will.
Yeah.
There will be a holistic execution right after, but everything will be live, let's call it a few seconds after our ad airs. So we're very excited for that.
So I know you're not going to release the ad. I'm giving you a chance here now if you just want to pop it up on the screen.
I'm the teaser, EJ.
You're the teaser. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the teaser. You can put this up and put it out there.
But I'm going to guess, just take a wild guess of maybe this character is going to be in your ad because you've been running campaigns around the Duracell scientist.
Yeah.
And I want to show our viewers that kind of what you've been up to that maybe could be a clue. I don't know. I haven't seen the ad, but
let's do it.
Did you get the Duracell batteries?
What's it matter? Batteries are all the same. All the same? Incorrect. Only Duracell is built different with Power Boost ingredients inside. Power Boost ingredients are a unique blend of nickel and lithium. No other batteries have them. Because you need all this to work on Christmas morning. Make up for last year, right, Dad? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Power Boost! Happy holidays, man.
Thank you.
so, he's not the puppy monkey baby like we saw in the Instacart ad, but he's clearly sort of playing the role of a mascot there. Have you guys used mascots in the past? And if not, why haven't you?
We're not strangers to mascots at Duracell. We pretty much have a mascot in every business, excluding the U.S. business until recently. So, and we believe it's a great vehicle to communicate our brand and our promise in an engaging way. And when you think about batteries, I always say, the part of your brain that's reserved to think about batteries is very small. The part reserved to think about battery advertising is even smaller. So we have a tall task as a low involvement category to really break through. So you have to look at creative ways in when really making sure that your ads are memorable, simple, and engaging. And we found the Duracell Scientist to be a great vehicle for us. And I can confirm the Duracell Scientist will be at the Super Bowl. So it's going to be very exciting.
So I wasn't going to mention this, but we did see the Energizer Bunny in that Instacart ad. So I don't know if you have something to talk about with Jasmine about that.
No, no, I just said to Jasmine that, she looks like a lovely person, but, she chose the wrong brand for her ad. But, I'll forgive her.
Okay. Moving on, I do want to go back to sort of the teaser approach here. Daniel, you began, as I mentioned, releasing the teasers of Shania and Instagram. How have you measured that? Getting back to this, I think probably one of the most important decisions is how soon do you release the teaser? How are you measuring it? What works? Do you make adjustments based on the reaction to the teasers? Can you kind of get into some of that with us behind the scenes?
Yeah, the teasers play an important role. I think it's the Super Bowl is such a pop culture moment of drumming up interest up to the ultimate day of the game. And so I think as we released a teaser of the actual spot itself with the young guy, Shania and her song, it gives us nice bumps of engagement. So we are seeing our followers on our social media channels almost double. The engagements of these teaser spots are 5 times our average engagements. And so we are seeing a lot of interest being drummed up for the new product and for the brand leading up to the Super Bowl. So it's been at least an effective strategy for us that's worked in the past for these kind of pop culture moments.
Do you have any plans with Shania, like on game day, to do anything on her social media or elsewhere?
So you'll see, I think we do have kind of a war room set up over the weekend to make sure that we're able to react to what is going on in culture and with consumers. And so the weekend, we'll see what comes out of it on Sunday. But then we want to make sure we are very proactive about what's happening with her, our spot, music, culture, dance, and so on. Yeah.
But you brought up the phrase war room. That was sort of in vogue, sort of, I think going back 10 years when it comes to Super Bowl advertising. I am curious, is that still a thing? And maybe we could kind of go around the horn here and talk about your game day plans, each of you. Like, are you huddling with a team actually in a physical space, or is everyone still at home? What's going on? Daniel, you mentioned you do have a war room, right? Is your agency with you? And
so our team, our marketing team with agencies will be having, war room, I would say in a conceptual style, right? Okay. So maybe like not a physical war, but like conceptually, yes, we are going to be ready over the weekend as well. The spot is, I think, a very cultural spot about if there's anything that comes up with music or dance, the things that do come up with the Super Bowl, we can engage and interact with the right way. So I personally will be watching from home with my son's a huge football fan, but my team is ready. Again, I always think conceptually with the war room environment so that we can react fast, right? Because we never know what's going to happen. And Jazz mentioned the brands interact with each other. There could be consumer interactions. And so we want to make sure that we're not caught flat-footed.
Jasmine, how about Instacart? What do you guys do in game day?
Yeah, so we're kind of dividing and conquering. There's a group of us who will be in a command center, a war room with our agency here in LA, just interacting with consumers. We'll be in contact with the CPG brands that are in our spot, some that are not in our spot who want to have some banter on the day of the game. And then we have another group of people who are going to be driving some IRL activations the weekend of Super Bowl. So in New Orleans, Kansas City, and Philadelphia, during that weekend of the big game, consumers who order on Instacart might get a surprise and delight delivery from our mascots in the Wienermobile. So we'll be doing some on the ground work, people interact, engaging with consumers in real life on social. And so we'll be sort of connecting via Zoom for those efforts as well.
How about Duracell? What do you guys, looks like you're in a lovely place there in Florida. So I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm in West Palm Beach.
Nice. I have a nice war room if you do have one.
Yeah, I'm going to go to New York because I need some cold in my life now. But what I'll say is we're going to watch it from VaynerMedia's agency office. And I think the decision came down to really 2 things. The first one is that team and my team and all the agency partners have worked their butts off for 30 days, day in, day out. So I'll say honestly, like I wouldn't want to watch it with anyone else, but everyone who's been involved. So I'll be there with them. And also, obviously, there's going to be, given the fact that we're releasing our ad during the Super Bowl, and we're going to be all hands on deck kind of executing the holistic plans. So I'm very excited about that.
I did want to go back to Jasmine because back to the teaser conversation. I did want to show kind of an example of how you guys are teasing your ad, using one of those mascots that's sort of legendary within the ad industry. So let's take a watch at your teaser with the Old Spice guy.
Hello, America. Stocking up for the big game? Look at your Instacart app. Now back to me. What's at the door?
Well, hot dog.
The Instacart app is now overflowing with deals on those snacks that you love. Play the music. Hey, you want to party? Yeah!
Look, I'm dancing.
We're in a commercial.
A dancing commercial with a horse.
So same question I had for Daniel. How are your teasers working for you? Did you learn anything immediately when you put them out there?
Yes. So Old Spice Guy is truly a fan favorite. He is an icon. So we were reminded of that right away. And so, yes, when we unveiled our teaser, we got such an incredibly positive response, both to the Old Spice Guy, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Heinz Wiener Dog. It really created this runway for us to drive buzz. And then again, back to the core message, stocking up for the big game, to drive that breakthrough, pull through message. So we couldn't be more thrilled with our teaser.
I have a really good audience question here I want to kind of ask each of you to answer. When thinking about this year's Super Bowl, were any of you inspired by any of last year's ads or strategies? Like how much looking in the past did you do? And maybe there's one or two ads you even want to call out for something that inspired you. Daniel, you want to start with that?
Yeah, conceptually, I was inspired by previous ads, which is that the Super Bowl is a different strategy from a marketing point of view. It isn't just about a full brand spot and product salivation and it's all product. It is about entertainment and engagement. People are watching the game, not just for the football game, but for it's like the halftime show and the ads. And so this idea that we got to think about entertainment and engagement as much as the branding and the product was a strategy that I've seen successful Super Bowl spots do in the past that we employed this time around as well. So we took a different brief and approach, even though it's a new item we're trying to sell here, right? So,
is there any you want to call out an ad or two that you've liked in the past, or anything that you've seen this year already?
I would say that nothing particularly comes to mind. It's really just I've seen a lot of the spots in the past that when we studied it and said that to me was a important formula that's different for Super Bowl spots versus others, which is entertainment first, along with the branding and then the what you're trying to sell. Whereas oftentimes in more of a normal spot, you're going to want to have brand product, really front and center. But this one had to be more of a balance because this is a time when you want to entertain. People are looking to be entertained first, right? So you take more risk here. I think this is the big aha.
Jasmine, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with Daniel. I don't have a brand I can say off the top of my head that inspired us, but it did from an entertainment value perspective. It really did give us permission to do an unveil, right? When you look at our spot, you're not quite sure who this spot is for. And that was intentional to really drive that entertainment and engagement, and then to unveil Instacart with the grocery bags on the porch. It definitely breaks, right, with convention of your traditional ads where first 3-5 seconds who's ad for, and we think Super Bowl is the right stage to bring people in and engage them and entertain them, and then deliver that promise from the brand. So we definitely took inspiration from that.
That actually brings up a good question, though, because I know some brands want to leverage their Super Bowl ads after the Super Bowl. So will you plan to continue running that ad, and will you have to change it to fit those conventions that, the idea that people don't automatically, that you need to get your brand out there in the first 10 seconds?
Well, no, in this case, we're going to continue running it, yes, to answer the question directly. And our thinking here is that is the purpose of having a 360 campaign and not just a TVC spot. And so we believe with our full strategy, both owned, earned, and paid around this spot, it will be unmistakably Instacart. And so people will know that it's us, but we do intend to continue to play it for a while, for sure.
Ramon, how about you? Any Super Bowl ads in the past years that you've been inspired by that?
Yes, I go back to the three pieces. They're generally breakthrough or unexpected. The brand is present and plays a major role, and there's a cultural authentic tie. So for me, that's a formula. There are some ads that do that really well. There's some ads where the brand does not appear. And we also looked at what hasn't worked to really move the business. So we absolutely have. I wish I could share with you the ones that inspired ours, but I can't, because then it's going to give it away a little bit. So more intrigue in the system. But from last year, I could say I loved the DoorDash activation. I love the CeraVe activation. I think those two were really unexpected, pretty interesting, and where the brand was at the core of it. So yeah, look forward to seeing more.
So we have a few minutes left. I want to ask, and this was a question from the audience as well. You know, when it comes to Super Bowl Monday, you know, we're going to all be just overwhelmed with rankings and measurements and scores. I think, you know, the USA ad meter is one that still people still look to. Like, I just want to, again, question for everyone here. Like, what do you care about these rankings? What you know, do they make a big deal to you? How do you view them, Daniel?
Yeah, I think that engagement with consumer is a measure we care about, equity and engagement, especially with something that's culturally relevant as Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, we are trying to sell one of our biggest new items ever. And so for me, does it get people to go to the store? Do the velocities pop? That's going to be one of the key measures, is looking at business measures along with the engagement and equity measures. So in this case, it's not just sometimes Super Bowl spots are purely for equity. This one is equity, engagement, but also this new item that we want to sell, which is Coffee Mate Coldfoil, and make that the top item in the category.
Jasmine, how about you? Is there any one or two rankings that you really care about? I'm talking about like the publicly external ones that, right, the ad meters.
No, we as an internal team, we've certainly talked about the ad meter rankings, and we hope to rank. But similar to Daniel, we're really focused on corely, number one, long-term impact. So how are we moving engagement? How are we moving brand awareness and consideration? And as I mentioned, our core use case of when people come together and gather, are they using Instacart to stock up for those moments? And so what is that business impact being driven over the medium to longer term? And we're just like sort of monitoring the ad meter rankings more than anything.
Ramon, how about Duracell?
For us, I would say similar. The rankings are great, but winning with a consumer is even better. So we're really focused about making sure the work works at driving the business, that the investment pays out. And, you know, as everyone, that we're going to be tracking many brand metrics to understand if we move the needle on the things we want to move. But it's all about winning with the consumer.
We do have a few minutes, like 3 minutes left. You know, you guys are all rookies, you're first timers here, and with doing anything for the first time comes a little bit of nervousness, right? So, like, what are you most nervous about right now, Daniel?
You know, I think I'm probably going back to that or the previous question. I'm most nervous about this. This does have to engage, drive equity, but also kind of win with the consumer and sell our products. We're making this a big investment. We all three of us know how much investment is, and so to me, it's got to pay out in the sense of like building the equity of the brand, but also selling Coffee Mate, the new item. And so that's got to be the key. Otherwise, you know, was the ROI there? And so that's probably what, because I feel like the spot, I'm happy with it, confident it's going to do well with consumers. But really, at the end of the day, we're all here as brand marketers to kind of drive the business. And so that's what I got to make sure that happens. Right.
Jasmine, how about you?
Yeah, I agree that, you know, that's a core focus for us. But I'll be honest, I'm not too nervous because as a rookie, I feel like I've gone through the rings of fire to get here. And we have scenario planned on top of scenario planned. We have, you know, really taken this work to paces. And so I think I've knocked off all of the nerves over the last couple of weeks getting ready for the big day.
That's good to hear. Ramon, how about you? You maybe have the biggest nerves because your ad's not out yet. You haven't seen it in action, right?
Well, I'm in the same camp as Jasmine, if I'm honest. Like, I've been nervous for the last 30 days of nonstop working, and I'm very happy where we are, very confident, and I'm actually more eager and excited to see it because I think it's going to be great for the business. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm done with the nerves.
Okay.
I'm now going to enjoy it because we deserve, you know, after a lot of effort from everyone. So looking forward to it.
All right, well, that's a perfect place to leave it. I want to thank you all again for your time today. And again, good luck on Super Bowl Sunday and beyond.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So for our next session, I want to invite my colleague, Erica Wheelis, onto the screen.
Hi, EJ.
Hello, Erica. Take it away.
Sounds good. I agree. That's so nice that they're all like, we are nervous about it, but like, it's got to be what it's got to be. So for our next conversation, we're going to talk about a little bit of a different way of creating a Super Bowl spot. So rather than go the agency route, Doritos went out to its fans, giving them brand assets to make their own 30-second spots. Out of thousands of submissions, the brand has narrowed it down to 25 semifinalists and then had the public vote on their favorite 3. The winner was Alien-Themed Abduction by Dylan Bradshaw and Nate Norell. So let's take a quick look at that work that's going to air this weekend.
Aliens.
UFO detected.
Come on, man! Dorito.
Dorito.
Yeah!
Joining me to talk about their fan-led Super Bowl spot, I am joined by Tina Mahal, Senior Vice President of Marketing at PepsiCo Foods North America. Tina, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That gave me butterflies seeing it. Every time I see it, I get some butterflies, which is great.
I have to say, I have 2 parts of this ad that I really like. My first is that this actor, like him trying to pull the bag back. I don't know how they made it look like that was a lot of force. And then you gotta love that it flies out and blows up the spaceship.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so good. I really like that.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to get into all of the details about the upcoming ad, but I actually want to start by going back a couple of years. So for those who may not know, Doritos has done this before, so this is not Doritos' first time asking fans to make a spot. So from 2006 to 2016, you guys held the Crash the Super Bowl contest. So I wanted to ask, like, why this year? What was it about this moment that made you all say we should bring that back?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably a few things. So one, this will be our 25th appearance at Super Bowl. And so it felt like marking this quarter century, we needed to do something great for our 25th return to the Super Bowl. So I'm excited that we were able to bring back what truly has been an iconic brand defining program for us for our 25th appearance. And then, you said it when you just asked me the question, Erica. There's so many fans that know about this program, but there's so many new fans that have no idea what this program was. And it created some of the most memorable, I'll say it again, iconic ads that Doritos has ever put out there. So it felt like the perfect moment to mark 25 years, but also bring in this new fan base with, this program that truly hands our creative mic over to fans and to consumers. So we're excited to bring it back. As you saw from the spot that you just aired, it produced some pretty great, entertaining advertising. So we'll see how fans react.
I have to say, even when I first learned that you guys were bringing that, I myself had to be like, I was not familiar with this and did not know that it was something that had been done before and worked very well. So I'm in that boat, which is great. My follow-up question to this is, so, a Super Bowl, as we were just hearing from the first timers, this is no small feat, even if you are, a 25-year veteran or have done this so much. I wanted to ask about your agency relationship here, because I think this is such a big moment, not only for a brand, but for the agencies behind the work. So can you talk about how did you guys bring this up with Goodby Silverstein? Was that weird to be like, hey, we may ask fans to do this, how can you help us be a part of that? How did those conversations go?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a user-generated content campaign. But a good agency, Goodby, we've been working with Goodby for a really long time, and we actually have a really wide ecosystem of agencies that were involved in this. And good partnerships, good agencies, everyone's goal is to grow the brand and to solidify the positioning of the brand and to truly have the brand cemented in culture, especially a brand like Doritos. So, Goodby was a fabulous partner. And the ecosystem of agencies that we had were all fabulous partners. And Super Bowl has become so much more than just the one ad that airs during the game. It is the teasers, it's the lead up, it's the social content, it's the OLVs that go along with everything that you're putting out there to the consumer. And so we leveraged our ecosystem of agencies from Goodby. The marketing arm is another big agency who actually helped us launch this 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. They were a big part. Our PR agency, Ketchum. So, I kind of want to shout out this broad group, D3, which is our internal agency, which helped with a lot of the creative thinking on the angle that we would take this year. So we kind of all banded together and said, okay, the spot will go to consumers, really exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. You never know what you're going to get back. But how do we get people excited about, one, for people that knew the program, how do we get them excited that it's coming back? For fans and younger fans that didn't know about the program at all, how do we make them aware of it? So we did a bunch of things. We targeted the creator community in the fall of last year so that we could get great submissions. And that worked out really well. We had, so an old Crash winner, I wrote his name down so I don't forget it, Ben Kellner. So he actually created the GOAT spot. So if you go search, the best Doritos Crash the Super Bowl spots, he created one of them. And he won, I think it was in 2013 that he won. We brought him back as a director to create some of our teasers, and Goodby helped us put those together as well. And then we also did some work with the Chiefs. So, our agency ecosystem was involved in the Chiefs. They never get to watch the Super Bowl ads because they're always in the Super Bowl, playing in the Super Bowl. So we kind of engaged them, Patrick Mahomes and a few of his teammates, to watch the spots and get their reactions and call to fans out there to vote for their favorite ad.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought this up because yes, you guys did a teaser. Once you had, I think the top three, you had a teaser ad that ran with Goodby, and it was Patrick Mahomes and several of his teammates, as well as the Kansas City mascot, which is a wolf. Go look it up to have that explained to you. And what stood out to me about this is, like, number one, why Patrick Mahomes? Did you guys know? Were you psychic? But was there a reason that you all went with the Chiefs to say before knowing that they were going to be in the game? Was there a reason that you were drawn to them?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess whether you're a Chiefs fan or you're not a Chiefs fan, it maybe not hard to predict that they would be in the Super Bowl. Is like a repeat of 3 years ago, this game that we're about to watch on Sunday. And again, this is where that agency ecosystem came in. One of our central ideas, which truly was thought of by our chief creative officer here internally, Chris Bellinger with D3, was there's a lot of consumers that watch Super Bowl ads year in, year out. And if you're a marketer, one of the things that you watch for is consumers, whether they love your ad or hate your ad, and whether they're dogging your ad or they're not. So there's a lot of consumers that think that they can do better. So we took that angle to say, hey, think you can do better? Here's your chance to create a Super Bowl ad that shows up on game day, a chance to win $1 million, a chance to attend the game. And so with that angle, we thought it'd be really fun to have other Super Bowl experts beyond just consumers who are judging the ads that go up on Sunday. Tell us what they thought of the ad. So it was a fun concept, a fun idea, great way to engage, football fans as well. And how can you not love Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones and all the players that were in that spot? And they had some really wonderful reactions to the finalists. It was fun.
I like that. All right, let's get into this year's ad. Can you tell us, like, so first you had thousands of submissions, is my understanding, and again, you had given fans plenty of brand assets, you know, and saying like, please highlight Doritos, please highlight maybe the Cool Ranch, you know, had some visual stuff. What was that winnowing process like internally to go through everything? And what were you looking for? What were maybe one or two key creative components that you were hoping to see in the spot?
Yeah, you know, this is one of those ones, you know how the principle of simplicity is always the best principle, especially I think as it comes to advertising, and a lot of folks that are in the industry are, and a lot of marketers are at fault of sometimes complicating the ask. So, you know, even as we talk to some of our creative geniuses that have helped us work on Doritos in years past, the best brief is a simple brief. We truly, the ask to consumers when we put this out there and reached out to creators or fans that wanted to create this ad was really show us your love for Doritos. That truly was the brief. Like, so tell us why you love Doritos or show us your love for Doritos. And that simplicity, I think, just created really entertaining ads that touched on the things that consumers really love about the product and about the brand, the crunch, the flavor, the I can't wait to eat it aspect of it, and the fun that goes along with it. You know, this is a brand that brings smiles and joy to people. So that was the brief. It was as simple as that. And then in terms of what we looked for, as we kind of narrowed down from thousands of submissions to the finalists, the top 25, and then the top 3, it was, again, very simple things. It was originality and creativity, that they did meet some of like the guardrails that we put out there. We obviously, you know, we need to have some guardrails in there so we don't have insanely wild out there submissions, and that it would perform well as a Super Bowl ad. That truly were our KPIs. So we kept things pretty simple, and I think true to what consumers want to experience when they're watching advertising on game day. And the net was the great submissions that we got, and the winner, which was Abduction. And the 3 finalists were great. You know, they were all really wonderful. But we put this in fans' hands. You know, they voted, and Abduction was a winner.
I like it. I also really liked the barbershop spot. I thought that was a good one too.
It was a good one.
We have a question from the audience, and a question from Maria in our audience. I like this one. Were there any parameters that you put in place for this year's contest that you didn't have in previous contests?
You know, yeah, that's a great question, and I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Like there wasn't. I don't think that. Again, there's so many parts of this campaign that have stayed true to when it was introduced first in 2006. The new aspect of the campaign was anyone can be a creator now. So I've got 2 kiddos, one's an 11-year-old, she's a creator. So, you know, anyone can be a creator, the social media landscape has changed so much from when we first did this, that we expected people to engage in really interesting ways. And honestly, that was the big difference, is the type of creators, the everyday person that now can create an ad, the fact that anyone with a phone and a camera in their hand can be a creator was the big difference. So the other aspects of the program, we stayed really true to the program because the insight is so simple. It truly does resonate with consumers. You know, we really honed in on what we heard from consumers for the first 10 years that we ran the campaign, which was, I think I can do better than most advertisers. And we honed in on that. So we kept a lot of the principles very similar so that we didn't veer away from the magic of the campaign from the past.
I will say too, just as somebody that went and read the terms and conditions to see, but one thing that stood out to me that I recall is, I think, like, no AI. It was like, you cannot have, no AI generated aspects of the campaign. Which I think is so fascinating. Can you talk about that decision a little bit, to say, like,
so
not for this one?
So I love that you did your homework, Erica, and that you read through the terms and conditions. You're right. That is a great one to point out. And for Maria, who asked this question, that is, something as the creator industry has evolved and changed. We wanted this truly to be something that highlighted creators' love for the brand and for creating. And we felt like to make that a fair platform for everyone that might submit an ad, we decided that AI was something that we didn't want included or to be used when creating. Honestly, it was probably as simple as that. I'm glad that we did that because we got all this wonderful content. And I think content that these creators are very proud of because it came from them. And so I'm glad that that was a guardrail this year, as we look to potentially bring the contest back. If we decide to bring it back again in future years, we'll continue to look at things like that make it truly about highlighting creativity from our fans and making sure that everyone's got equal access to do that and equal availability to I guess express their creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about the spot, my 2 things for the spot. Number 1, what do you personally like about the winning spot? And are you aware of any fun Easter eggs or anything interesting about how it was made or anything that's in the ad?
Yeah. So things that I personally love. I know what you kind of mentioned, the things that you really love. There's a few things I love. I love almost the physical nature of it. So again, I think there's some spots on Super Bowl that you just want to be entertained with. And I think this is an entertaining spot. There's some physical comedy involved. There's some great, indications that the product is something that the consumer loves and would go to, some big lengths to keep. So I love that. I love the end. I love the little button at the end where, it's like tropes that we all can smirk at and laugh at, which is like aliens. And I love the little end with the aliens saying Doritos. That's one of my favorite parts of the ad.
I like that one too. I wanted to talk, let's give a shout out to and maybe talk a little bit about the creators. So again, Dylan Bradshaw and Nate Norell's team brought this to life. And they are not totally amateurs, I will say. They have worked with the great Zach King, who is a very famous illusionist, I guess, the creator. He's good with different perspective and pulling large, all this cool stuff. Go look him up. He's really interesting. Did you guys know that when you were when they made it to the top 3 or even the top 25, how much were you looking into creators' backgrounds? Did that matter? Was that something that you took into account?
The creators' backgrounds did not matter at all. So, those 3 criteria that I pointed out before is truly what we looked for. So we did not look at who was creating, who might be involved, any of that. We knew that we would get creators that had some experience to creators that have no experience whatsoever. And we knew that would be part of the submissions, and that's okay. That is a good representation of the creator landscape. So we were excited about that. So we didn't know that Dylan and Nate have done some great work. They're so wonderful. I'm so glad that they made it to the finalists and that they are the winner. All 3 I'm honestly, all 3 of the finalists were fabulous. And but Dylan and Nate are co-directors. They're best friends. They're co-directors. They did start from some pretty humble beginnings, and they're starting to make a mark, I think, in the creator space. And I think this will propel them in their careers and really give them a massive stage that hopefully makes a massive impact on this industry that they have so much passion for. And so that's my hope with the campaign, and they deserve that. They created a great ad. They're just at the beginnings of their career. And I hope, like Ben, who created the GOAT ad and, has gone on to be a great director. I hope that's the future for them as well.
I was going to say it is quite the springboard if you're wanting to really make it in the industry. Absolutely.
Yeah. Talk about feeling good about your job. The fact that we're able to do that for some of our consumers is just awesome. It's amazing.
Very true. All right. Obviously, like now, we talked a little bit about social media. So you're right. It's no longer like, here's our Super Bowl spot, and that is the end of that. Social media plays a big part in the strategy to support that moment. Can you guys talk a little bit about the marketing strategy here? Because obviously a big part of this was the public voting, which requires a lot of we want to put this out on social. We want fans to know about it. So what were those conversations like in saying this is going to be a big social lift leading up to it? And then do you have plans for after how this will play out on social?
Yeah, so we had multiple phases to the campaign, again, because just the way you engage in advertising leading up to Super Bowl and post Super Bowl has shifted a little bit. So phase one for us was truly about all that, about using social, digital comms, et cetera, to reach out to creators and get some really good content and to engage that creator community to submit content and to submit ads. And then it was truly about creating some consumer engagement behind the finalists, the top 25. And then we shifted to this, voting phase, which is where we created content to support both of those phases. When we enlisted Ben to do our teaser, it was to raise visibility that the contest was back. His story is a wonderful one to highlight as someone who was part of the contest in the past, and really get people engaged in watching all the wonderful work that consumers and creators had created. And then the phase after that, which was just, we just witnessed it through the playoffs, was the vote phase. And it was to get people to watch and to vote for the winner. And we wanted this to be truly fan led. And so that was the work that we did with the Chiefs and getting people engaged in a bit more of a mainstream way. So we had broadcast, linear, buys on the playoff games, but then a lot of OLV content that leveraged that content that we created with Patrick Mahomes and his teammates, and obviously a lot of social and a lot of digital. So that was kind of our surround sound. And then to answer the end of your question, how do we plan on moving forward post Super Bowl? I think Super Bowl provides this really wonderful moment for a lot of brands. And I think success out of Super Bowl is either taking that moment and being able to continue it, and it's saying something about your brand that lasts and that you can continue to leverage after the game. And so what I love about this campaign is we have all these wonderful fans that have created all this great work, and we plan on showcasing it. And it's a good way for us to, one, talk about the brand, because it is so amazing to watch all the content, and you can just pick out all the things that consumers really love about Doritos. What a wonderful gift. What a great gift. Crunch, flavor. There was one spot that I love that's about Cool Ranch breath and what your breath smells like after you eat Cool Ranch. All these great insights about our product. And so we plan on leveraging that. And that was part of what we put out to fans and to consumers when we first launched this is, please submit what you want with this very simple brief. And our hope and goal is to showcase your work. And we will do that throughout the year.
That's really interesting. I actually don't think I realized that it would be it's not just these are the folks that won. So sorry to everybody else, but it is taking harnessing that and just being it is good work. Why would we not? Makes a lot of sense. Why would we not showcase it? For sure.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? Our fans did some really good work. So we will use it.
Yeah, they're very fine. I want to stay for a moment on the social media aspect, because especially when it got down to the final three, researching some of these folks, some of the talent behind it, I will say it was really interesting, even on Instagram, that you would see a grip for one of or a background actor for one of the spots was hey, I am in this ad, please go vote. Of course the directors were driving folks to that website, but it was really fascinating that to see like these are smaller teams, and to see everybody on there be like tagging everybody to say like, go vote for us. Like we think we have a shot here. That's really cool too.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's part of Dylan and Nate did a great job of tapping into their communities and garnering some votes. It was, there's this really wonderful video that we have of when our Chief Creative Officer, Chris Bellinger, told them that they had won. And that moment, again, talk about feeling really good about your job. But it was their instant reaction was how much their community had rallied around them and supported them, and how much they leveraged social and, you know, their how their outreach resulted in all this love and support for their content. So that was kind of special. And I think that's part of this program is the support of the creator community. So it was nice to see that.
All right, let me do some like 30,000 foot view questions for you here, Tina. So sticking with the Super Bowl just for a minute, like you said, you guys are old hats at this. You guys have advertised in the Super Bowl for many, many years. Why? What about this moment in sports and culture makes you guys say, like, we keep coming back to this? You know, is it recognition, awareness, sales? Like, what is it that makes you guys say, of course we're doing a Super Bowl spot?
Yeah, you know, I think you get in this game, you become a marketer, and of course everyone's like, ooh, what I would love to do is a Super Bowl spot. Here's how I see it. It is a wonderful stage, and when used strategically, it can be really great return on your investment. So for a number of things, and this is how we've used it. So when Doritos first showed up on the stage, the reason why Crash the Super Bowl was even born is we weren't a big advertiser, at least on from a brand side on the Super Bowl, but we kind of said, hey, what's the best way for this brand to show up in an authentic way? And that's how Crash the Super Bowl was born. We weren't, you know, I've referenced our Chief Creative Officer in the past, like the way he says it is, and he was involved in the first Crash Super Bowl. So it's amazing. It's like a full circle.
He can speak to it. He is very,
he's qualified to talk about this, but he kind of talks about it as, hey, we were like this little kid that wasn't invited to the big party. And so that's how Crash was born. It was like, what's the best way for this brand to show up authentically? And it was a bold action that gave the brand to the fans. It felt right for the brand. It was the positioning that we wanted to solidify with our consumers, and it opened our ears up to consumers. So wonderful. We ran that for 10 years, and then we leveraged the platform to do other things. So I think you can either solidify your positioning on Super Bowl, and it's so many eyeballs. It's a great way to reach, you know, such a broad array of consumers. So great, you can solidify your positioning. You can talk about innovation and news, and it's a great platform to do that too. So if you just think about generating trial on innovation and news that you put out into the world, the Super Bowl is a great platform for that. And that's how we then leveraged it over the past few years. So you would have seen ads around Doritos barbecue on, you know, we launched a new flavor on Dinamita last year, and we leveraged the stage to talk about innovation. So I think if you look at it that way, what is it saying about my positioning or my brand, and can I carry that forward beyond the game? Or how do I use it to make people aware of something that's completely new that we're bringing to the brand, flavors, products, etc. I think it's a really good platform. I think if you show up just to show up, you're not really getting the return on the investment that you put out there. So that's the way we've leveraged it, and I think it's worked well for us.
All right, so sticking, because obviously the Super Bowl is kind of like one tentpole moment in the marketing calendar year. So can we talk about just like Doritos media mix overall? I'm kind of curious, like, where are you guys seeing good returns? Like, what are those channels that do really well for you? Are there places where you're like, we could do less here, it's not as good as the return? I guess, like, where do you see good ROAS?
Yeah, you know, so as you think about the evolution of linear and just what the media landscape looks like, and I think, we all probably are feeling this. Live sports, when it comes to linear, great place to focus energy and effort. And especially again, if your brand fits, and we are a part of viewing moments a lot. So, Doritos, a lot of our brands are part of viewing moments when it comes to live sports. So that's a great place for us to communicate with consumers and also then be part of the moment. And then, obviously, social and OLV and leveraging influencers, that's where the future is, where the future has been, it feels like, but where the future is. And so that's where we're spending a lot of time and energy. And that's what, honestly, I really admire about this program. And I was lucky enough to say, hey, we should bring it back. So I am humbly excited about the fact that I'm here to say, hey, we should bring this back for our 25th year. What I love about the program and what makes it so special and unique is we now have all this fan-generated content that we will push out leveraging digital channels, and I think the best way to engage when it comes to social and digital is things that are entertaining, things that were sometimes not created by brands because they truly are tapping into what consumers want to watch, and how they want to engage, and the messages that they want to hear, how they want to smile. So we are looking at linear in ways that says, okay, what are captive audiences that fit with our brands? Sports is that for us, and then really focusing on the right content to exist in digital, social, OLV. And then I think what we probably need to focus on more and figure out is how do we truly tap into the influencer community in the same way that we've tapped into the creator community. And so that's, I think for most brands, something that needs to be determined.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you again to Tina Mahal, Senior Vice President of Marketing at PepsiCo Foods North America. We really appreciate it. All right, and now I'm going to take it over to my colleague, Garrett Sloan.
Thank you, Erica. And thanks, Doritos and Tina Mahal, for crashing our Super Bowl event. Next up is AdAge's AI Playbook. The big game is a moment for bold brands to make a splash, and AI is helping them do that in many ways. Now, we have not seen AI-generated AI Super Bowl commercials yet, but AI is definitely playing a role behind the scenes in the creation of ads, and it's a growing product category on display in the ads. That's the case for our next guest, Farrah Howard, Chief Marketing Officer at GoDaddy, which has a surprise commercial that will highlight GoDaddy's web creating AI and the ad stars Walton Goggins. So I also want to remind viewers before we start to please send your questions during the talk so I can get to them at the end and ask Farrah anything you want. So welcome, Farrah. Hi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you again. This is great. Excited because you have a great commercial yet that we haven't seen because it hasn't been released, but we've seen teasers. And this is they show Walton Goggins. He's got a new business, Goggins Goggles, I believe is the name. Walton Goggins Goggles.
Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses. Try to say that 10 times fast, but maybe easier, gogginsgoggles.com.
Gogginsgoggles.com, and that's your hook because you are a web creation tool, a small business tool, and this is part of the ad, which we haven't seen yet again, but we've seen the teasers with him in a race car wearing the goggles. So I just wanted to start there. It's sort of tell us what you can about the campaign so far.
Well, I think the best place to start is with Walton, to your point, and with GoDaddy Aero, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. And for us, going to the Super Bowl gave us an opportunity to tell the story of GoDaddy Aero, which is the star of our spot. But Goggins, Walton Goggins, is a celebrity that's helping us tell the story. And he brought to the world several months ago Goggins Goggles, which I happen to have a pair of right here if you want to see them.
I absolutely do. I want a pair.
All right.
No, but you have a pair, so let's.
I have a pair. I have a pair, and we can help you get a pair. You can go to gogginsgoggles.com right now and buy any of the 5 pairs. But Walton Goggins is a huge fan of sunglasses. He also has an amazing name and a highly alliterative brand now with gogginsgoggles.com. And he thought that it would be amazing to bring goggles and glasses together into a fashion accessory that didn't exist. Oh yeah, I'm about to put these on.
Okay, good.
Here we go. I think maybe if I wear them for the whole interview, it might be slightly distracting.
It's pretty cool.
This is a pretty awesome product.
Yeah, it's a good look for you. I'm telling you, you could wear them the whole time. But we'll take an image of that and share it on social media later. Don't worry, it'll get out.
I can't wait. Here, I'll put these back on so I can see you.
All right, we'll get. Anyway, these are the glasses, and I think they launched, and it's sort of like his business does poke fun a little bit at technology because it's talking about the business itself, how it's marketed is sort of like, making a little jest at AR, VR type glasses, and he's just saying these are just straight glasses. So there's a tech component.
There is a tech component. The glasses themselves are goggle glasses, which is a new innovation, but they were brought to the world by GoDaddy Aero. And so when we started to talk to Walton Goggins to see if he was compelled to be part of our Super Bowl communication that's going to be live in the world in a few short days, we learned a few things. One, we already knew he was hysterical, but we learned that he is, incredibly passionate, incredibly funny, and entrepreneurial. So he had an idea he wanted to bring to the world, enter GoDaddy Aero, ultimately making that possible. If you haven't checked out the website, it's the ultimate demonstration of what GoDaddy Aero can do for small businesses everywhere. And he launched his business in November.
Right. So it's a new business, and we're going to get a little bit into how your Super Bowl commercial is part of promoting a product that incorporates AI into it. And before we get into the details of that, I was just going to ask in general about high level, how brands are using AI to create commercials this year, because more and more as it becomes part of what advertisers are doing, AI is part of the playbook. Text, image, video generators, all this. We haven't seen AI generated commercials for the Super Bowl, but it's in the process of building the commercials. Maybe you could share what that sort of process is.
Absolutely. I mean, at GoDaddy, we use AI in so many different ways, right? We use AI to ideate. We use AI to help us write copy, and then we make that copy better. We use AI for concepting and storyboarding. And for the Super Bowl ad, we actually relied quite heavily on humans. AI doesn't eliminate humans, it makes humans better. And so AI helps us in so many different ways of go-to-market, but we felt like for the Super Bowl, it was really important that the human story came through, particularly because we're telling a story about AI. I mean, GoDaddy Aero is an AI-based experience. It brings your business to life online faster and easier than ever before. But to tell that, we felt like that story was best told in ways that was human created.
Yeah, I think that's part of what I see from a lot of advertisers. Of course, these AI tools, you're talking ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Meta Llama, these large language models that do all these sophisticated marketing operations now even. They're obviously part of advertising, but in Super Bowl, you don't want that to be the story maybe, or you don't want that. You want it to be the pinnacle of human creativity in a way. I don't know if I'm getting the sense of that, but that's what it seems like.
For us, it was really important to be able to tell a story that the broad audience at Super Bowl could connect with. And we know that Walton Goggins is an amazing, amazing celebrity who people will connect with. And then, like I said, the story itself that we're telling, the star of the story, is an AI-based tool that small businesses actively using to get online faster, get their customers faster, and be more successful than they ever have been before. And so that the element of human creativity is really important to us at GoDaddy, and certainly important at a pinnacle moment like returning to the Super Bowl.
And I don't know how much you could say because maybe it's more in the commercial, but I can ask, did Walton Goggins use AI to develop his small business presence? Is that part of the theme?
I can absolutely tell you about this all day long. I mean, Walton Goggins used GoDaddy Aero to build his business. So, the beautiful logo, Walton Goggins goggle glasses, created by AI, his website created by AI, and then made better by him, just like any small business using GoDaddy Arrow, right? When you go into GoDaddy Arrow, if you don't have an idea of your business name yet, GoDaddy Arrow can help you. If you want to get a jump start on your website, it'll build it for you. And then you can go in and edit it and make it personalized. So if you haven't gone to goggins.com, go check it out. I mean, it's super clear. You know, Walton's fingerprints are all over it in terms of both imagery and tone and voice. But that site was built by GoDaddy Arrow. His marketing content was scheduled by GoDaddy Arrow. And this is exactly the experience that we want to inspire small businesses with, to know that it's so much easier and faster to get online than you could have ever imagined. And so why not bring your idea into the world?
And for you, just using AI tools, building it as a platform as a marketer, is that something that you're already doing in your day-to-day work?
Yes, we use AI in our standard go-to-market, or said in English, when we think about getting messages out in the world, we use AI in lots of different ways. We use AI for search engine optimization. We use AI to help us with copywriting for search engine marketing. We use AI to help us get off that blank sheet of paper to start to get a bunch of ideas, and then we make it better with our own knowledge of the business and our own knowledge of customers and storytelling. But we use AI, throughout the company. And what I think is also important to note is the tools that our small businesses get access to with GoDaddy Arrow. We also use those same tools internally. So, to your point, Garrett, the LLMs in GoDaddy's software platform, like OpenAI and Claude and Gemini, and the list goes on, those all feed in to the tools we use for marketing and the tools our customers use to market their small businesses.
Now, I'm told we may have the teaser to show some folks, just so we can get a sense of what the Walton Goggins preview is. So if somebody could pull that up, we'll have a look.
Chi è quello là? No, davvero? Woo! Goggins!
That's it. There you go.
That is it. That is one of several. We dropped a few teasers just to get people excited about Goggins and about GoDaddy Arrow. And then tomorrow, our ad may be out in the world for more people to see. And then, of course, on February 9th.
Maybe tomorrow. We're hearing rumors of tomorrow. We'll see the full spot. But now, another thing I'm thinking about with the challenges of AI, it's not only how do you use it in your commercial building or in the planning of campaigns, storyboarding, which maybe you could give us glimpses of after this, but also how do you talk about AI as a product without turning off consumers or being too jargony, like AI agents or AI, whatever the buzzwords are? How do you explain it to consumers in a way that they can understand?
It's a great question. And the way we talk about AI, like I said earlier, AI ultimately makes humans better, right? And from a small business standpoint, can save you time, can help you get customers, but it doesn't replace you, right? So we did a tremendous amount of research over the past several years to understand how small businesses were using AI, their receptivity to it, their familiarity with it. And what we learned were small businesses were using AI, for daily tasks, and they were highly receptive to using AI for their small business. One of the things that sets GoDaddy apart is the fact that any AI-enabled capabilities, they can be modified by you as the small business owner, right? You don't like the copy that AI produced for you for your website? Great. Build from there. And so I think it's really important for small businesses to know, and they're playing this back to us, that they understand that these tools can help them save time, but it doesn't replace them. They can then just go in, leverage what AI has done for them. So then they have more time to do the thing that they're made to do, bringing their idea into the world and not having to learn how to code or all the ins and outs of digital marketing calendaring, because AI can set that up for them and then they can activate their business.
And have you promoted Aero before in Super Bowl?
We haven't. So we haven't been in the Super Bowl in 8 years. And part of the reason why we're going back to the Super Bowl in 2025 is because, I mean, the reason is Aero. GoDaddy Aero is so powerful that we want to be able to get the word out. And there's no better place to do that than the Super Bowl.
And we had a question come in from John. Thank you, John. This isn't GoDaddy's first time in the Super Bowl, but it seems different from previous experiences. Did you take any learnings from past years, apply to this year?
Yeah, thanks, John. We absolutely have learned a tremendous amount from our history in being in the Super Bowl. So we were in the Super Bowl for 12 years, starting in 2005. And what the Super Bowl did for GoDaddy was it put our name on the map. You know, our name is very well known, and we attribute a large portion of that to the fact that we were present in the Super Bowl. And so for us, when it became clear that we had a story that small business warranted hearing, the Super Bowl popped right back into the conversation for us. And for us, it is about being bold and telling a story that breaks through. But one of the big learnings is the center of our story is about our product experience for customers. And I think that's a big difference for us. Like I said, GoDaddy Aero is the star of our campaign, and that hadn't historically been our approach.
And in Super Bowl, we've seen, I think last year it was Microsoft Copilot may have had a spot, glimpses of AI tools, and they're all different and have different utility. So how do you make it so that you can show like, oh, where for website building, for business building, not an agent for searching the web or different tasks, maybe Google. Actually, Google does have a small business message too with its Gemini. So you're competing too for that space. How do you stand out?
Yeah, the way you stand out is the story that you tell at the Super Bowl has to be bigger than just the Super Bowl itself, right? It's not just that 30-second moment, which is why for us, it was so important to have a real business out in the world having incredible success with GoDaddy Aero, right? And then to have an amazing megaphone of a highly passionate celebrity who's committed both to running their business and promoting what it means to be an entrepreneur, then that story can really land, right? So when you see the spot, you're like, oh, wait a minute, like Walton did this, so can I. And it's a story that's been out in the market, right? The product's been out in the market, or Walton's product, and GoDaddy Aero for quite some time. And that's a story that we'll continue to tell beyond.
Now, what this is it's a website builder. You go on, I want to get help building my first website, or it's launching the business. This similar AI tools to ChatGPT or image generators that you have a whole platform built on, and we can maybe geek out about what the large language models are underneath it. But for the surface level, you're going in, you're talking prompts, getting logo ideas, business name ideas. Is that the basis? And then you set up the website.
Yes, and so what's so compelling about GoDaddy Aero is that it is an experience. It's a collection of products. So it is a website builder, and it's a domain name generator, and it's a marketing business consultant, and it's a logo generator, and it creates email for you. I mean, it can do so much more for you, and it's encapsulated in this collection of tools instead of having to go to lots of different places to build all these. I love that you just pulled this up. Like, these are logos built by GoDaddy Aero. They're beautiful, and they're created almost in real time versus, days, weeks, months with an external agency modifying. So super powerful and super fast.
No Goggins goggles logo in that one, but can we see his again just to have a look?
Yes, you can. This is there
it is.
On in, yep. This is the bag that the amazing goggles come in, and you'll see his logo front and center on his website, and maybe in some other places.
Other plate. Okay, we'll leave that be for now. And they, I know you have to keep some things under wraps. The part of this campaign, you it's not involved in the production of the campaign, but you use AI tools to just get ideas off the ground, to help plan it. Are there some ways you could describe where AI did come in handy developing the campaign?
Yes, for us, when we started to concept and we started to ideate around the role that celebrities would play in our storytelling, we used AI to do some of that concepting work, right? Because it can create imagery so fast and really tell a visual story, which is great. You know, like I said, we use AI for a lot of our search engine copy, our SEO or search engine optimization. We use it for rapid, modification of imagery when we think about things like display advertising. And we use it to help us be succinct, right? AI is phenomenal. I'm sure we've all had experiences of, I wrote this crazy long thing, got all my thoughts out. Hey, AI, help me synthesize. And AI is awesome at that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people, there's some people who are fearful of AI, as we would be of probably any tech advances. And then there's others who are just diving headfirst and they don't want to be left behind in it. It seems like as a marketing organization, you're in the latter camp.
We have been using AI for years at GoDaddy, and the GoDaddy software platform is the same platform that our customers utilize and have access to. I mean, my belief as a marketer is that I need to use the tools that my customers are using. And my belief as a marketer in this day and age is that I need to be incredibly fluent in the impact that AI can have on our business. So all of us within marketing and across GoDaddy, I mean, we use AI with great frequency. We utilize our internal tool, a bit of internal language, but we call it GoCast. And it is a collection of large language models that is designed for speed and efficiency to help us leverage the same tools that our customers are using.
Do you have a favorite one or seen one that's been more impressive than others?
It's a great question. I mean, it really depends on the task. And one of the things, and the one is like, do I have a favorite large language model, right? Is that, I think, the question that you're asking.
Yeah, what's your favorite large language model?
I mean, I use ChatGPT. I use OpenAI a great deal, just in my personal life and for work. But within GoDaddy, when we bring a query into our GoDaddy software platform, depending on what the ask is, the model will serve up the most efficient, cost-effective, fastest, and accurate model, right? So if I'm looking for imagery, like a lot of those logos you saw, Dolly's going to do the job, right? If I'm building copy, OpenAI may do the job. And so it really depends on the query. And that's the power of our model, is the integration of multiple LLMs ensures that we're going to be able to answer the query, or said in English, the ask of an employee or of a customer of AI as accurately, efficiently, and securely as possible.
And part of Super Bowl too is you have to use some of these tools too if you're also inviting consumers to adopt them. So you do have to have some ability to really eat your own dog food, as Google, I think, popularized as a phrase.
I know. We try not to think about it as dog food, but it's like we got to walk the walk,
Not the
right?
best phrase, but
We do use that term internally too. But truly, like, we need to be experts in the technology ourselves if we are in turn selling that product to customers to use to drive their business, right? We have to use it to drive our own business. And we do. I've been thrilled with the progress that we've made internally around, socializing why use AI, making it part of our day job. I'll often hear marketers say like, ooh, that feels like cheating. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's actually saving you time and giving you more headspace for the complicated tasks that AI isn't set to do. And so, it is an imperative that all of our employees use AI. And we know that small business can benefit from it. We are a business, we benefit from it as well.
And again, with just the ability, Super Bowl is the ultimate creative stage, like we said, keeping the creative at the center for at least that 30-second, 60-second spot. But at some point, video AI, we're seeing studios get involved, movie studios, more commercial work. Coca-Cola's made some compelling campaigns just with generative AI. Do you think we'll ever see a generative AI commercial in the Super Bowl?
Never say never, right? I mean, we already have seen full AI ads brought out into the world. What I will say is there are always humans behind that work, right?
Sure.
Even the full AI generated work was ideated by a group of really smart marketers and business folks coming together saying, what's the story that we want to tell? Like I said, for us, we think that the humanity is really important in the storytelling, and the product is AI. And so, for us in the near term, no, but will other brands lean heavy into all AI all the time? Maybe.
It would seem like it would be a natural, like if you did it, you would definitely get talked about, but you might have to be a pretty risk-taking brand to do it first.
Agree. I agree.
Now, is there, talking about the campaign, so what do you do to measure the success of it? Is there a formula?
No formula, but there are definitely multiple KPIs that we'll be looking at. Like, the way my team and I talk about the Super Bowl is it's not just about the 30-second spot, right? The Super Bowl is a campaign that's already begun, right? We're talking about the Super Bowl right now. People have been talking about the Super Bowl and the advertisers in the Super Bowl for weeks and months. And the story that we're going to continue to tell after February 9th is a continuation of what you'll see in the Super Bowl. But to get to the question on what do we measure? I mean, we'll absolutely be looking at traffic to GoDaddy.com. We'll be looking at sentiment on social. We'll be looking at sales impact. We'll be looking at recognition and awareness of GoDaddy Aero. We really want people to know what GoDaddy Aero can do for them. But we're not going to have all the answers on February 10th, right? Like it's going to take time for the moment at the Super Bowl that will continue to materialize in all the KPIs.
Now, this is going pretty fast, so I have to get to a couple more questions. Okay. Like what you said with social, one of the things AI is good for is rapid reaction. Is there any way AI will be helpful in the social aspect, day following, to really get content out, jump on things?
What I would say, without letting the cat out of the bag, is you can expect to see a lot of GoDaddy Aero in social in and around the game, which is AI.
GoDaddy Aero, of course, will be Aero.
Aero.
And we'll definitely see that. And then on social, where are you focused? I mean, there's a lot of talk about like which platforms are even going to be in existence 1 week from now. So how do you plan for an uncertain social climate?
It's a really good question. We need to be present across multiple social platforms, and they all have different jobs, right? We saw during the Grammys, the role that the Grammys played, or that X played in Grammys communication, right? So I expect X will be part of the mix. TikTok is an incredibly powerful platform for back and forth conversation with your customers. Instagram, Facebook. So it's not a one size fits all. It really depends on the story that we're telling and what's happening at that moment in time. I mean, as a marketer and a marketer whose team is focused on the Super Bowl, we're going to be listening to all the conversations that are happening, and we'll be involved in as many as we possibly can across multiple platforms.
And other brands, do you think we'll see any, like I said, social media with the real time? Maybe it's not yours being an AI generated image. Maybe it is, because we can't get into all your aspects. But do you think other brands could lean into it in ways we might not expect yet? Because in ways the commercials haven't quite hinted at.
Yeah, I do. I do think that, brands will be using AI because AI is fast, right? And AI helps you tell stories in different ways than traditional production, And so it'll be interesting to see how brands leverage speed and balance that with, making sure that you're coming across in a human, authentic way. I think we're going to learn a lot from this Super Bowl, and certainly in 2025 in general.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on, and this was very informative. Thank you, Farah, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Talk again soon. Now, I want to welcome to our screens editor at AdAge Studio 30, John Dioso. Hi, John.
Hey, Garrett. Thank you so much for having me. Great chat. All right. So I'm John Dios, editor of AdAge 30. As brands adapt to shifting consumer behaviors and media consumption habits, Danone has taken a different approach to Super Bowl marketing. Joining me now to discuss how the company has refined its strategy over the years and what other marketers can learn from its success is Linda Bethay, the Chief Marketing Officer of Danone North America. Welcome, Linda.
Hey, John. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Excited to talk to you today about our strategy.
Love it. Love the football in the background. It's very appropriate.
Yes, absolutely. Big week.
All right, let's get into it. So Danone, you've been advertising the Super Bowl for the past half dozen years or so. What have been the biggest lessons from these past campaigns, and how has the strategy evolved? And then how is this influencing your strategy for 2025?
So sports in general are a great way to connect with a broad segment of consumers in a really relevant way. 70% of Americans are watching live sports, many on a weekly basis. So it's a really good place to be if you want to meet consumers where they are. But when I joined Danone 5 years ago, we weren't tapping into this opportunity the right way. We were actually an official sponsor of the NFL, and we were spending millions of dollars for the rights to use that asset. And all we were doing was putting a tiny little NFL logo on our yogurt cups. We were spending so much on the partnership rights that we had no dollars left over to actually activate the league assets. So we completely turned our sports strategy upside down. We exited that contract and we thought about how can we really tap into the power of sports and the cultural influence of athletes to really insert our brands into culture in a modern and relevant way. And so that's really what started us on this path to leveraging the big game as a platform for some of our brands. Our first ad that year for Oikos came together in less than 6 weeks from concept to air. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that approach, but it had great results. It was called Yo Glutes, and it showed how Oikos protein-packed yogurt powers some of NFL's most powerful glutes. It drove great awareness.
Glute is a great word.
Right. Really fun. The soundtrack was Major Laser's Bubble Butt to underscore the importance of strong glutes. And it drove great buzz and awareness for our brand, but we realized we could do better. We could do more. And so we have evolved our strategy over the past 5 years. One, we take a much earlier approach to planning, highly recommend that. And we also think about it in a much more strategic and integrated way to make sure we're leveraging the full marketing mix to engage with consumers both before and after that tentpole moment to maximize our investment. We also partner really closely with our commercial teams to make sure we're getting the right omni-channel activation around the tentpole as well. So it's a full surround sound approach, getting that true screen to shelf execution behind our marketing strategy.
Well, let's talk about a little bit more about that on the channel strategy. So Danone Super Bowl presence is largely digital first, which aligns with the rise of streaming and multi-device viewing. So what impact specifically has the shift had on engagement, and what insights can other brands take away from maximizing their investment beyond traditional TV buys?
Yeah, our media planning approach is very intentional. I talked earlier about the number of consumers that are watching live sports. Many of them, particularly the younger consumers, are doing so through streaming platforms. So as we thought about our target audience, we realized that streaming sports were a great place to recruit that younger consumer. And we know 2024 was the most streamed Super Bowl of all time with over 120 million viewers. So we're still getting the broad reach that you can get from more traditional channels, but doing so in a more cost-effective way. And that enables us to shift dollars to do that surround sound through social, through PR, et cetera. So in addition to our main 30-second spot, we're building bespoke content for paid social, for earned PR, to get our content out to consumers through multiple channels. We last year had a partnership with Jason Kelce and Frank's Red Hot. It was a social collaboration during the Super Bowl where he was showing how Frank's Red Hot made his Oikos even better. So it gives us the opportunity to broaden our partnership with athletes, with other brands, and with more media channels to drive that full integration around our consumers.
Always good to have the Kelce on board.
Doesn't hurt.
Let's get into the product itself. or products. The Super Bowl has long been dominated, as we've seen already from all the ads and from just our conversations today, by snacks, alcohol brands. But consumer interest in health and wellness continues to grow, and Danone has positioned health-driven products like Oikos as part of the game day experience. And now this year, brands like Hims and Hers and Novartis are both advertising during the game. How are these health-related trends influencing your marketing strategy, and how do they play into this year's campaign?
It's a great question, right? Because it's not a traditional tentpole for more health-focused brands. But today, more than ever, consumers are becoming more interested in health and wellness, and food is a key driver of that. So that's a perfect opportunity as consumers seek out more health benefits from their food for Danone to step in and play a pivotal role. We offer a broad portfolio of leading food and beverage brands that are nutritious and delicious. And so as we think about recruiting more consumers into our portfolio, what better way to do that than in a key tentpole like Super Bowl, where we can reach that broad audience. And we're participating in leading some of the biggest health trends right now in food and beverage, from protein to gut health to GLP-1. On protein, we know that 70% of consumers are looking to consume more protein in their diets. And we have the #1 protein-packed yogurt with Oikos. On TikTok alone, there were 800 million searches for gut health last year. And so we're innovating on Activia to provide more gut health benefits to consumers. And over 25% of Americans have said they've used a GLP-1 drug for weight loss. And so we recently launched the Danone Nutrition Hub to provide the information they need on their weight loss journey. And so these are all great ways that we can reach consumers and deliver the health-focused benefits they need with our leading portfolio of brands. And sports is a wonderful way to do that because you need nutrition. You need to be powered when you're thinking about, not just playing sports, but watching sports as well. And so we think it's a really good tentpole for us to leverage to put our health-focused brands in sports' biggest moment, like the big game. But beyond that, we actually partnered with a number of Olympic athletes earlier this summer, Sha'Carri Richardson, Jordan Childs, on a campaign called Nourish Your Hustle, featuring our drinkable yogurt drinks, the perfect protein-packed snack to nourish athletes as they go about their day. On our Stoke cold brew coffee, we partner with Wrexham AFC. So really looking to a wide variety of sports athletes, sports leagues, sports moments to connect our brands to our consumers.
How is this connection between sports and health consciousness, et cetera, related to how your brands are appealing to younger audiences specifically? We're still so consumed with Gen Z and millennials, obviously, but especially Gen Z. How does that connection appeal to that specific audience?
We always approach it from a strategic standpoint, right? Yes, younger consumers are more interested in health and wellness. Yes, younger consumers are connecting more digitally and socially. So on the surface, it makes sense, but we always go a bit deeper and say, does it authentically make sense for our brands to show up in those moments? What role can we play? And do we have a right to win? And so if you think about, Oikos, again, being that protein-packed yogurt that's powering the strength you need to be unstoppable, it absolutely makes sense for us to power with NFL athletes who are the embodiment of strength, right? They need that strength to get through their workouts every day, to show up on the field during the big game and perform at their best. So for us, showing up as Oikos in those moments makes sense in a way that's authentic to the brand and to the platform.
All right, speaking of athletes, why don't we get into the creative? So Danone has consistently leveraged celebrity talent in its Super Bowl campaigns, from football stars like Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, who both happen to be in the Super Bowl this year, Shannon Sharpe, Deion and Shedeur Sanders, but also to actors like Martin Lawrence, Jeremy Renner, and Anthony Hopkins. Actually, why don't we pause for a second and watch this year's there you go.
Attention passengers.
No.
Gate change.
What's the matter, Miles?
My gate just changed. You see this? Ain't no way I'm making this flight.
Oh, you're making this flight. Hold my Oikos. Okay.
Watch out!
Miles, can I get your autograph?
We can make it! Thank you. You're stronger than you look, JT.
I know. Not giving me back my Oikos, big guy.
Oikos is packed with complete protein to help build strong muscles.
All right. Well, Juno Temple is a lot stronger than I thought she was, but that's a great ad. So how do you approach? Talk to me a little about the thinking behind this creative, and how do you approach selecting talent, and what role do they play in delivering your brand messaging?
So in Oikos, we've had this campaign, Stronger Makes Everything Better, which has been a long-running campaign for a number of years. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a history of partnering with NFL athletes, again, showing how protein-packed Oikos yogurt really powers the strengths they need to be unstoppable on and off the field. And so we wanted to continue the success we've had there, obviously partnering with Myles Garrett, but also wanted to expand the role and the reach and bring more women into the portfolio by showing how Oikos can also partner the everyday strengths you need to make you unstoppable. It's also a fun twist on previous feats of strength that we've shown between Deion Sanders and his son Shador. Now we're featuring Juno Temple and Myles Garrett in a very surprising feat of strength as she carries him through the airport. So it's a great way to continue our strategy, but evolve it as we evolve our marketing strategy and try to recruit a broader audience into the Oikos portfolio.
All right, so for the rest of the time that we have left, I'd love to go into looking at the broader marketing landscape and what all this, going back maybe to the original question, which is the lessons that you've learned from all the past campaigns and how it's informing the 2025 campaign, but also going forward, what is going to come out of this? You talked about it on the channel strategy, et cetera. So with keeping all that in perspective, what advice would you give to brands who are looking to break through during the Super Bowl, especially those that may not have a traditional in-game ad?
I think the first piece of advice I would give is, does Super Bowl even make sense for your brand? I think as marketers, we get caught up in the hype around Super Bowl, right? It's not just sports' biggest night. It's advertising's biggest night. And it's really exciting to work on a Super Bowl ad, but it doesn't make sense for all brands. And so that's where you have to start. Really understand your brand strategy and your brand purpose and determine if this is the right cultural tentpole for your brand. And if you decide, yes, this is the right moment, then you have to go a level deeper. What are the moment or the moments around the big game that you want to own as a brand? There's been in recent history a tradition of brands now releasing their ad a week, 2 weeks prior to the big game, building that buzz, building that anticipation. Is that a space you want to play? Or would you rather maybe make a big splash the night of and do a stunt like Liquid Death did last year? And so it's being really intentional and thinking through, again, where you have a right to play and where you have a right to win. We are very big here at Danone on our vertical screen to shelf activation and making sure that we're truly maximizing the investment that we're placing behind the media spend and everything else we're doing at Super Bowl. So it's a very intentional 360-degree strategy where we're thinking through the celebrity talent we're choosing, the media channels we're activating in, all the way through to omni-channel to make sure that we're showing up consistently across the board wherever our consumers may be. And then you obviously have to connect that back to your objectives and your KPIs and make sure that you're measuring everything you're doing to drive those results.
Talk a little bit more about the on-the-channel. Obviously there are different channels involved. We talked about streaming a little bit before. There are different TV channels involved as well, and that also goes across to social, online viewing, etc. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's played into your campaigns and the evolution of it? Because it's changed so much just since your whole campaign started about 6 years ago. It really has changed, and talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. It's not just the type of channels where consumers are consuming media that has changed, it's how many as well. We know that the majority of younger consumers are not just sitting there watching the big game. They may have the big game up on the big screen, but they also have their computer, they have their phone. They're consuming multiple screens at one time, which is really played into our channel strategy. So we may have the official buy in the digital stream of the big game, but we also want to make sure that we have the social content that they may be consuming at the same time on their phone, that we also have the right digital shelf content, right? They see our ad, they're like, wow, that Oikos Pro is filled with 20 grams of protein. I want to buy some through Instacart. Let me go to Instacart and type in Oikos yogurt. We need to make sure that our brand is then showing up on the digital shelf. Or, hey, mom, I just saw this amazing ad. I need some Oikos Pro this week to, power through my week. Can you put it on the grocery list? When she goes in the store, we want to make sure we have the right feature and display so it's easy for her to pick up that Oikos, put it in her cart, and bring it home.
All right. Well, you just released the ad that we just saw before with Juno Temple and Miles Garrett was just released today, and you've already got some pickup on it and coverage. Do you have anything else that's coming out that you might want to tease, or should people just
We do. So again, we are a leading portfolio of food and beverage brands, over 20 brands in our portfolio, and we are intentional about where brands show up. Oikos will not be the only brand showing up in the big game this year. Our Stoke cold brew coffee brand will be back for year 2. Some of you might remember last year's ad featuring Sir Anthony Hopkins as Rex the Dragon. So our cold brew was, fueling his on-field halftime performance. So we're back this year. I can't say anything about the creative, but I promise there will be more Hollywood magic. So please stay tuned.
All right. Well, I think that's the perfect place to wrap it. Linda Bethea, Chief Marketing Officer for Danone North America. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John.
All right. And coming up next, AdAge Senior Reporter Sabrina Sanchez. Sabrina, take it away.
Hi, John. Thank you, John and Linda, and our sponsor, Danone, for that wonderful session. I'm Sabrina Sanchez, Senior Creativity Reporter at AdAge, and I'm happy to introduce our next panel, the Gen Z Perspective on the Super Bowl. I'm joined today by a wonderful group of Gen Z marketers who will talk to us about what's grabbing their attention, what platforms they're using during the Super Bowl, and what campaigns will stick out through the noise. So I want to introduce Leah Kakoulidis is a Senior Platform Strategist at VaynerMedia. Zoe Kuzbari is a Public Relations Associate at Weber Shandwick. Sam Lurie is a Community Engagement Manager at We Are Social. And Brendan O'Connor, he's an Account Executive at Ogilvy. So thank you to all of you for joining us. We're going to get started, but as a reminder to our audience, if you'd like to submit questions, please do so via the comments on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or X. And we'll try to answer a few of those at the end of this session. So hi to all of you. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks, Sabrina.
Yeah, doing well.
Awesome.
Doing great.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Same. So there's a lot to talk about, right? And I don't want to jump in too deep into the discussion just yet, because I want to go quickly around the room and ask everyone to share from the stuff that you've seen so far, the Super Bowl teasers, the ads that have come out, what has immediately captivated your attention? Why? I'm curious what you guys are seeing and what's really just sticking out to you. Let's start with Leah, and then we can go around with Brendan, Zoe, and Sam.
Awesome. So from the pre-release spots that I viewed, the Hellman's spot is the one that caught my attention the most. I loved the recreation of the When Harry Met Sally deli scene. I thought the fact that they brought back Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, which are the original cast, to just recreate it with the addition of Sydney Sweeney with the iconic "I'll have what she's having" line. I just thought that was very well done and just such a lighthearted giggle, but also nostalgic. And the surround sound efforts that they did with Kat's Deli really stood out to me. I love that leading up to the game, they have a limited time offer, "I'll have what she's having" box. And that is something that you can purchase to enjoy during the big game. So it's enough to feed, I think, up to 6 people. And it's just a really cool LTO. I think that's for the pre-game leading up to the game. That's really interesting to see.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Brendan, what about you?
Yeah, the one that caught my eye is the one that I saw first, and that was the Coors Light Case of the Mondays. Before even seeing the teaser itself, I started seeing, the misspelled ads, misspelling refreshment, saying refreshment instead. I think that was a great place to start because piqued my curiosity. I actually saw on my LinkedIn feed people in comments saying how that was such a poor mistake if it was not intentional. Didn't think too much of it though, kept going. Eventually saw it again pop up on my social feed, but this time it was actually a case of beer, the Case of the Mondays. To me, I was trying to connect the dots. For some reason, I didn't get it right away. It didn't click, so I had to keep digging. I saw it again pop up on my social media feed later. Dug into it some more, So I think that one stood out to me the most because it caught my attention in like 3 different places on social media before I even got to the actual teaser itself. And we still haven't gotten to the Super Bowl spot. So that was one that caught my attention first.
Yeah, that one's been everywhere. Awesome. Zoe?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm a little bit biased. Obviously, I love the Bud Light, the Michelob Ultra, and the Stella Artois spots, just because we've been working on those for so long, and it's been really great to see all of the love from everybody the past couple of weeks as we release the teasers and then the full spots. Personally, I really love the Uber Eats commercial. I've been obsessed with Charlie XCX for the past year. My mom texted me this morning because she saw it on the Today Show and she loves Martha Stewart. And she was super confused by their teaser with the TikTok trend where they were going back and forth on We Listen and We Don't Judge. So I really liked how they pulled that in. And of course, Matthew McConaughey is so iconic and he's so funny. So I think they did a really good job of incorporating 3 different celebrities that can touch different touch points that they're looking to maybe get involved in. So that was super cool and one of my personal favorites. And then I also liked what Doritos did with having their fans submit the commercial. I think not a lot of people know about that yet. So I think it'll be super interesting to see how fans react on Super Bowl Sunday once that's actually aired during the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that Uber Eats one is a multi-generational campaign. So definitely very interesting. And Sam, what were some of your favorites?
You guys already took a lot of mine, but I will say that the When Harry Met Sally one really stuck out to me in particular because they activated before the campaign with influencers wearing the same sweater that Billy Crystal wore in the movie. So we saw like Pookie and Jet wear the famous white sweater. We saw Alex Earl, and I really appreciated the teasing leading up to the advertisement. I thought that was very smart of them to do. In addition, I really enjoyed Doritos and Taco Bell's approach to the Super Bowl. I think that it's really cool that they have a strategy before where they're gathering like all these videos and photos to be featured in the commercial, and it kind of guarantees them conversation afterwards. So they're kind of hitting all the touch points, which I think is the goal for the Super Bowl. That's really difficult to achieve. So props to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, these are all great examples. And, this is why I wanted to start with this question, because I'm hearing a lot of different things, multi-generational campaigns, some user-generated content involving the consumer on different platforms, multiple touch points. So let's just hold on to that in the back of our minds as we continue the conversation. But on that note, Brendan, Super Bowl campaigns are known for their high production value. But some of what we're hearing here is that Gen Z often prefers raw, unfiltered content, something that's a little bit out of the box. So how do you reconcile these two seemingly opposing preferences when working with brands?
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl poses a really interesting opportunity because it's the one of the very few events throughout the year where you get millions of people across the world sitting and experiencing and watching the same thing in real time. Especially in today's day and age when we're all so connected through social media, everyone can almost experience it like we're in the room together. So I think even though, a lot of brands end up going for the big productions, like you said, have the big budgets to make the Super Bowl spots, I think there's definitely ways that you can still attract Gen Z with the more raw and kind of scrappy plays to get our attention. And I think you can do that by watching like the rest of us, watching like a fan, responding to the wild, the wacky, the weird, and the crazy that happens throughout the game, because it's something that we're all experiencing together. So I think it's really interesting for brands to take a step back and acknowledge that, they can be more like people as well to relate better with Gen Z, because what I'm going to be doing throughout the game, what all my friends are going to be doing throughout the game is going on their phone, looking on social media, texting their friends about what's going on. So it's an opportunity for brands to enter the conversation there almost as a friend, almost as a more relaxed and casual way, so that they can insert themselves into the cultural conversation that everyone's going to be talking about. You're missing out on it if you're not a part of watching the Super Bowl and all the different events that are going on throughout the game. So I think it presents a really cool opportunity that everyone's experiencing it together, and brands don't have to necessarily be on the big screen. They can jump in on social and through a lot of other ways to still be just as involved in all those text conversations that are going back and forth between friends throughout the game.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we all know the history of, folks kind of like live tweeting or posting on X, I guess, during the game. AdAge is going to be on Blue Sky, so check that out. But yeah, definitely very interesting points. And, I want to bring Zoe in because Anheuser-Busch has a rich tradition in Super Bowl advertising. We know that they do it, every year, almost every year. And you work with them. So how do you balance maintaining that legacy while introducing fresh ideas that appeal to Gen Z?
Yeah. I think, AB's been in the game for a long time, and they're obviously one of the most iconic brands that advertise during the Super Bowl. So really anything that they do has stayed relevant to Gen Z and to multiple generations that tune into the Super Bowl every year. I think that working with their brand partners, who obviously have a lot of value, the celebrities who are in the TVCs for Bud Light, Stella, and Ultra this year have huge reach. And so that's a way that they can tap into staying active with the younger generations. But I think that, doubling down in the places that they've always existed and continuing to bring just their iconic value to the Super Bowl is always going to be relevant for everybody who's tuning in on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, definitely staying true to the brand. And Leah, Gen Z is often described as valuing authenticity, cultural relevance. In your experience, how do you help brands strike that balance in the Super Bowl, campaigns without coming across as performative or kind of pandering to this audience?
Yeah, so I think, especially when we're trying to connect with Gen Z, it's really important for us to speak the language that they're already using on social. So what we do at VaynerMedia is we do a really deep scrub on all platforms to understand how Gen Z is speaking, what phrases are super relevant to them. In terms of how I'm inserting myself into helping the surround sound in Super Bowl moments, it really comes in through the war rooms and really how we are going about those live engagements leading up to, during, and after the game. But my biggest take is making sure that we're speaking the language, because a lot of the times that's the way that we can prove the most relevancy. So literally using our copywriting to resonate with Gen Z has proven to be super beneficial for us and our strategy also in the coming game.
Yeah, I feel like Sam, you'd have a good perspective on this too. You have a background in fostering online communities. How can brands ensure that their Super Bowl campaigns are like genuine and spark real conversation rather than just being another ad, right? Because we have like more than 50 advertisers running ads in this game.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like it takes a lot to get Gen Z's attention because we're constantly getting sold things left and right, like whether we're scrolling on TikTok or walking down the street, advertisements are everywhere. So I think brands are hesitant to seem like they're selling you something because of this. And I think it's important to remember that, ads are an art form in of themselves. And in this case in particular, like people who don't even tune in to sports generally are tuning into the Super Bowl because of the advertisements. They're the entertainment around the entertainment, especially on social media. So I feel like as long as you're telling a story that feels authentic to your brand, consumers will be really receptive to that and it'll break through the noise.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that a little bit more, because we often talk about, you were saying how brands don't want to seem like they're actually selling you something. A lot of times the skill that's employed or the genre that's employed is humor to try to get there. I'm just curious, from your experience working with brands, how important is humor in capturing Gen Z's attention during the Super Bowl, and how do you determine what kind of humor resonates the most?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the best brands on social are funny, obviously. They're approaching with humor because that's how the internet speaks. But the problem is that they chase humor that has nothing to do with who they are as a brand. So I think that if your ad could exist without mentioning your brand, you're kind of missing the point. So I think it's really important to dig deep to like, what is the insight that connects to the unhinged energy that you're trying to throw out there. Like, I think that it's important to make sure that you have that thinking behind it.
Yeah. Zoe, what are your thoughts on this? Because we were just talking about, some of the AB ads that came out, and a lot of these are funny, right? But I'm just curious, what is the level of humor that you determined would resonate with this audience?
Yeah, definitely agree with Sam. I also think that brands are spending a lot of money on the people who they're working with in these commercials. And so the humor has to feel like them, right? Like the partner and the celebrity in the spot is an extension of the brand, but also you don't want to make them into someone that they're not if they're being featured in the TVC. So I think good examples of that, like from Bud Light with Post Malone and Shane Gillis, they're making jokes that feel really authentic to who they are as people outside of Bud Light. Which I think really resonates well with Gen Z. Same thing for the Stella commercial, like the last line where Matt Damon makes that comment about Ben Affleck. Everyone knows that they're friends in real life. Everyone knows that they know each other super well. That feels really authentic to his brand personally, and his relationship with the brand feels authentic with Stella Artois. So I think staying true to who you're having in your TVC will help that humor really come through with Gen Z, because it'll feel more like them rather than just scripted humor.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brendan, as someone who's passionate about sports too, right? What role do you think the storytelling aspect of Super Bowl advertising plays in resonating with a generation that values both entertainment and purpose, right? Because we're talking a little bit about humor, we're talking about entertainment, but then there's also like that quiet voice sometimes that is like, this is a huge stage. Should we be making purpose ads? So I'm just curious, what role do you think, storytelling plays into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of a perfect segue from humor, because I think the thing about humor, like Sam and Zoe were just saying, is that it has to feel authentic. And I think the messaging, whatever messaging you're putting out there, whatever story you're telling, does have to feel authentic. And you have to make it feel like, as a brand, you understand Gen Z. Gen Z wants to feel like they're understood. And I think I keep seeing some stat that only like 30% of Gen Z or something feels like brands truly understand them and who they are. And like you said, we care about value, or we care about our values and matching our values with brands as well. Those two stats don't go well together at all. The fact that we don't feel like they know us, and we do care about brand values and what brands we're supporting. So I think it's all about storytelling, and storytelling is so powerful. Brands need to understand who we are, what we care about, and then also, like the other panelists have said, what makes sense for their brand to talk about, what platforms they can talk about. Gen Z is, we're an optimistic generation, even though sometimes we don't get painted as such. So showing that you understand that we are optimistic, that we like to feel supported, and trying to lift us up and tell a powerful story, not just, trying to knock us out with celebrities and super funny humor, whatever it may be, trying to actually tell us something, engage us, show us that you're interested in who we are, because there's so much content out there, like you said, so many different spots as well. So in order to actually capture our attention, you do have to show us something with some substance. You do have to show us something that has value and tells an interesting story. So I think that's one way that brands can kind of bridge that gap between making sure that they're talking about values that they have as a brand, and also connecting with Gen Z.
I'm so glad that you said that, because just because we laugh through the pain doesn't mean that we don't care.
Exactly. That's exactly what our optimism is. It's a little sarcastic.
Yes, exactly. But you said something really interesting, which is about, brands have to kind of figure out the things that we care about. I'm just curious, where do you think they can find that information?
Yeah, I think it's with what we engage with on social media. I mean, social media is the first place to start. I think we build as Gen Z with so much content out there, with so many decisions that we constantly have to make, even purchase decisions. We end up in communities where we can try to get more direction on like what purchases to make, what decisions to make in life. We're looking for guidance. We're looking for these kind of safe places where we have this community of people that we can trust. And I think influencers has obviously taken off because of this reason. We feel like we can trust them, and we feel like influencers really understand who we are. So I think for brands leaning on influencers and trying to better understand consumers through who we're following, who we're interacting with on social media, is a great way to start in understanding what our values are, because our values often align with those that those communities that we try to associate ourselves with, and those influencers that we look up to or try to follow for advice or guidance in life.
I would love to stay on that point for a second, because that's a great segue. Sam, we're talking a little bit about how social media is a powerful tool for amplifying Super Bowl campaigns and how brands can figure out what we care about. What platforms do you think are most influential for Gen Z engagement during the big game, and how should brands be using them? I know that this is a question for a lot of people, especially with all the social media drama. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, this is a good question. I feel like the social landscape is in such an interesting place right now. Things are constantly shifting. There's a lot of alternatives to Twitter that brands have been exploring. Not a lot of brands are on Blue Sky yet. Threads is there, but people aren't really there's a brand presence, but people aren't really on it as much as they're on Twitter. I still think Twitter has a huge place for real-time conversation. So it'll be interesting to see if Threads and Blue Sky end up kind of pulling their weight in terms of those real-time conversations and those real-time activations. Although there's some brands that have gone harder on Threads, we don't really see a lot of CM activation on Blue Sky yet. And I think it'll take a while for them to achieve the status that that X, or formerly known as Twitter, has. But I think that platform, along with TikTok, is probably where we'll see the most conversations.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I've definitely been hearing that TikTok is still relevant despite the brief shutdown that we had on January 19th. I'm curious, Zoe, if you can tease a little bit where AB and Bev is going to be for the big game. Where are you guys activating on social?
Yeah, I think we'll still keep up with Twitter, and we'll still keep up with Instagram and Instagram Reels. I think that's a really good place that they've been dropping their content, and a lot of their consumers love to interact with the brand on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, awesome. So switching gears a little bit, Leah, you've worked with a range of industries. And a lot of different categories. What sector do you feel has the more natural alignment with Gen Z interests during the Super Bowl? And I'm curious why.
That's an interesting question. I feel like this may be a super hot take, but every brand in every industry is at the same starting line, I feel like, on February 9th when the Super Bowl begins, because they've captured all of our attention. And I think that there's been wild, commercials in the past that have caught my attention that were just not, what I would have expected to, or I remember even the farmer's dog. I did not think a dog food brand was going to suddenly be getting me close to tears and the topic of conversation after the game for me, and my group chats. But I really do think that every industry has an equal opportunity when the stakes are this high and attention is at this height.
Yeah, super interesting. And Brendan, you've worked with brands like Jimmy Dean and Hillshire Farm. So what have you learned about crafting campaigns that are both memorable and meaningful to Gen Z, kind of to Leah's point, during major events like the Super Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's totally about just understanding who Gen Z is. It all goes back to, authenticity, as we're going to say 100 times. It's the buzzword of the year, of every year, I guess, in advertising. But I think I'm really making sure that you do understand who your brand is, where they're showing up, what is going to be interesting to them, and understanding what makes them tick. I think as we watch content on TV, as we're scrolling on our phones, what's going to make us stop is just something that catches our attention, but what's going to make us actually understand the content, relate with it, engage with the content is something that's a little bit deeper and something that feels like it connects more with us personally. It's not just something that was pumped out there that's going to catch the attention of a lot of people. It's something that we feel like is directly for us. It showed up, on our feed for a reason, or they're talking directly to us. So I think any way that brands can just show that they know what does make us tick, what makes us interested, that'll help pique our curiosity and really develop that deeper engagement.
Yeah, definitely very interesting. And, I do want to bring in Zoe for this question because you began your career as a Super Bowl intern. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was the
Okay.
Bud Light Super Bowl intern in 2023.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So how have you seen campaigns evolve over the past few years to engage younger audiences? When we talk about, how to make meaningful and memorable campaigns for Gen Z, all this drama with the different platforms, all of that.
Yeah. I think brands are continuing to really evolve past just their TVC, right? Like, I think we've talked a lot about social and they're interacting with their consumers on there. I think there's a ton of importance on consumer engagement now outside of just your TVC. So talking about merch, like the Dunkings merch from last year, or involving your consumer for Doritos to create the TVC this year, or the Instacart QR code from last year. I think that there's so many different ways to engage consumers past just the commercial now, that's really grabbing the attention of Gen Z and helping their campaigns evolve past just Super Bowl Sunday.
Awesome. And Leah, can you share an example of, maybe a social trend that you've leveraged or something else that you've done on the Vayner team to help a brand stand out during a major cultural moment like the Super Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely. From a platform point of view, I also thought maybe it's worth discussing also the attention and how quickly the conversations make their way onto each of the platforms. And I do agree with everyone and what their previous answers were. I also think that just in terms of Instagram and TikTok, and obviously TikTok being available to us for the foreseeable future, we're seeing a lot of conversations come within 30 minutes of a big moment. We can expect to see pieces of content about that moment on TikTok. And with Instagram and Threads, we've seen that be even a shorter time span of like around 5 to 10 minutes, which is really interesting and something that we're using to this question about how we're engaging with Gen Z and those real-time moments and what platform strategies we're doing. A way that we're activating is by, in our war rooms, really monitoring all mentions, all big moments, conversations in the search bars, and making sure that we're on top of it and meeting it as soon as it's posted on each of those platforms. But really in the debrief on TikTok, because this is what we've been seeing a lot, even with the Grammys and previous live moments that have happened over the past few weeks. Ultimately, the biggest the Gen Z debrief happens on TikTok, where now everyone's, had a moment to, sit with whatever happened and share their thoughts. And I think that for brands in particular, it's really important to understand Gen Z's before chiming in, understanding what is the conversation? Is it skewing positive? Is it skewing negative, neutral? Is this brand safe? And figuring out how can we chime in with that platform native language again. Like I said, there's been many trends that have translated into the comment sections. And this is a big opportunity for brands to show, one, how much we understand Gen Z, but also use that phrase and trend in context that applies well to that moment that is now surfacing on social platforms.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for saying that. The comments. So important for brands. Definitely a great point. So at this point, we only have a couple minutes. So I do want to just toss a question out from the audience, and I think this is a good place to end. But if we can go around quickly and answer this question from Penny. Penny's asking, which Super Bowl ad last year had you or your friend group talked about the most and why? So this is from last year's Super Bowl. If there's anything that stuck out to you, does anyone want to volunteer? Just lift your hand if you want to answer. Sure, Zoe.
I liked the Dunkings commercial last year. I thought that was super funny. I think it's relevant again this year, obviously, with Ben Affleck back for Dunkin'. And then I also thought the timing was really iconic with him and J-Lo. And obviously now that continued to be a conversation even past the spot. But I thought that it was super funny, and I think even after the Super Bowl, I went back and I watched that again. And I watched their extended cut that came out after that because I liked the commercial so much. So yeah, that was definitely one of my favorites.
Awesome. Anyone else? Sure.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Working at Ogilvy, I'd be remiss not to mention CeraVe, and also because my friends talked about it a lot, and it caused a lot of buzz. And I think as mentioned at the beginning with the Coors Light, the Case of the Mondays ad, and how they got me from so many different angles, I'm kind of a sucker for that kind of advertising. And when they get me in a bunch of different ways and start with like some intrigue and planting bugs here and there, I think that always captures my attention and causes some buzz, something worth talking about, something that makes you want to go back and look more into it because you're curious, spark some curiosity. So the CeraVe with Michael Cera was definitely one that caught my attention.
Awesome.
I also was a CeraVe commercial.
Mine as well. Yeah, I just love the absurdity of it. I've worked on some CPG brands that lean into kind of the nonsensical side of social media that we've really seen take off in the last couple of years. And I just think bringing that onto the big screen was a really smart thing to do. So kudos to Ogilvy.
Yeah. Awesome. And I guess I'll answer this one too. I'm going to go a little bit against the grain, but my favorite was actually BMW's with Usher and Christopher Walken. Reason why is because this aired right before halftime, I believed. And so you saw Usher at the end of the spot and went right into the halftime. So I just thought it was really strategically placed. But that's all we have time for. Thank you all so much for offering your perspective. I think there's a lot of great takeaways here for brands, making sure that you understand that there needs to be a balance between humor and what Gen Z cares about. We do laugh at our own pain. Doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt. And, definitely be authentic to your own brand. We don't want to do anything that's patronizing, but these are some great takeaways for brands to walk away with. And let's see what Super Bowl this year brings. So now I'd like to invite back EJ Schultz for closing remarks. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Sabrina. Before you leave, I have a question. It was interesting to hear them talk about how much they liked the Hellmans when Harry Met Sally ad. I know you wrote about that ad, and obviously it refers to a movie that came out in the 80s, so a long time ago. Were you surprised to hear Gen Z, at least these Gen Zers, like that so much?
I was a little surprised, because I'm not too sure how much people know When Harry Met Sally, but at the same time, I think it's an interesting perspective. I actually really enjoyed that ad too. And as a Gen Zer, I recall watching the movie with my mom. And so there's a little bit of like that intergenerational connection there. It's also just funny, they chose a scene to recreate that is pretty universally understood. And so I just thought, it kind of leaned into the humor. It's a little bit nostalgic, but Gen Z can probably connect to it if they have a connection to their parents through it.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. Great job. All right. That'll do it for AdAge's Super Bowl playbook. I want to thank everyone for viewing today. And I want to, of course, thank our sponsors. Our co-presenting is Danone North America, and our supporting sponsor is TikTok for Business. I also want to give a shout out to our producers behind the scenes here at AdAge, Anna Sakula and Lauren Ciardio. And before I leave, I want to note that I just did the math, and we now have seen 25 of about 60 ads that will eventually be released. You can watch them all at AdAge, and that also means there's a lot more ads for us to dissect and analyze and watch. So please stay tuned to adage.com/Super Bowl for all the latest news and analysis. And if you have a brand in the game, good luck. If you're just watching it for fun, have fun. And we will all catch you next time. Thank you.